about data already published in an article. These are data that the article is about anyway. So the principal data are in the article already. What we can do is to give access to the raw data set. We are not dealing about commercial secrets, confidential data, personal data, not at all, not at all. And we are only dealing about data already represented and published in an academic article. So that's our issue. Is this new? No, not at all. Because researchers do share their data and do want to share their data. So it's not a matter of forcing them to do something they don't want to do. It's a matter of supporting them in doing what they are already doing, sharing data. Many journals is now requiring to publish the data alongside the article. Nature Genetics, so a traditional publisher, one of the most famous, Nature, is asking researchers to publish the data alongside the article. So it's not not a new issue. And if you think some disciplines in biomedical field, like genomics, but also in the social sciences, also have huge data sets publicly available. The European Union has an initiative called Elixir, which is about open access database for data. And this is, and this must be, a collaborative effort. So many organizations need to be on board to collect data, to share data, and to preserve data. Keep in mind that in 20 years, data need to be available. Why? Why it's important to share data? First of all, for access, for other scientists. To compare, to contrast, to support. I think it's better to rely on raw data than on data interpretation. An article means data interpretation, not data, real data, actual data. The second important is the reuse by other scientists. I mentioned before the social science data. Social scientists collect a huge amount of data, natality, mortality, and so on. And for a study, they use the data only for a very specific perspective. But the data are collected, and someone can use without spending more money in collecting data. So the reuse is fundamental. And it's fundamental also transparency. You know, if you don't know, I tell you, there is a blog whose name is Recherche Watch. Every day there is a post on retracted papers because of fabricated, faked data. Every day. They never run out of posting. Every day. So, transparency, quindi open data for checking. And
publications and data freely available. They put that in writing in a lot of declarations. We have, for example, the Berlin Declaration. You will find research organizations from all over the world who have signed that. The Eurohawks, now Science Europe, have a roadmap with exactly the same thing. So if the politicians discuss openness, they don't have to worry about the research organizations, they know what they want. They want openness. They declared that time and again. When we talk about open access to data, we have to distinguish this clearly from open access to research publications. The main difference is a publication is intended by the author to be publicized. Research data are as such not intended to be publicized. Then they are constantly, if you will, in a working mode. Saying that, we heard that access to research data is absolutely necessary for a sound research process. Research without access to data is like an engine without fuel. But you also know that when a researcher has a project and is generating data, he has an interest to exploit these data to a certain extent before he makes these data available for other parties. So when we formulate policies concerning access to data, we know that openness should be the default, but we have several legitimate reasons for either delaying or completely neglecting access to certain data because of privacy issues, because of security issues. So if research organizations ask for access or openness of data, they're not naive. They know that there are reasons to not make data available, but the principle should be clear. Now, we do have problems with access to research publications. We learned about that just now. Let me compare that and say that's a mouse. Now, the problems we have with access to research data is the elephant. Because research data, in order to be made available to third parties, have to be worked on. That we have metadata to be added, explanations have to be added. And you cannot just take a research data like a file, a computer file, and send it just to somebody. You need all kinds of infrastructure to go with it. So we are in the situation right now because of the technical development for the first time in history to make research data available on a broad scale. That has not been possible before. Now, that's really new. So we can solve a problem we have been having for hundreds of years. But this takes investment in the infrastructure, and of course we have to build a new kind of professional, a new group of professionals, people who help scientists to bring the data into a form so they can be used. Now, the vision we have is an infrastructure with all the publications freely available, with as much data as possible freely available, and the two things interoperable. That's the vision. In order to make this vision a reality, we do have to deal with intellectual property rights. That's part of the game. We heard this morning, some of you may have attended a session this morning, that maybe intellectual property rights are not such a big problem with data. In fact, it's not that easy. If you imagine a satellite measuring something and then sending a signal down to the Earth, and you get some kind of signal, then this signal will be processed several times, and it's not so easy to define what is raw data or research data, because there's a constant process of refinement. And within that process of refinement, people do add information to that. You know, they put what is in their head to these data. So that there can be stages at which we reach what we, I don't know the English word for that, reach that stage that makes it protected by intellectual property. So we have to deal with that. But we do want to deal with that. That is, we want to build an infrastructure that will also have a slot to put intellectual property information in that, so we can respect this property. But if we have a policy, we should try to license data and also publication where possible with standard licenses, because otherwise it's going to be really complicated to get this new kind of infrastructure. And I mentioned this new profession that is necessary. Not only do we need a new profession that will help the scientists, but also we will have to reward the scientists for making data available. Scientists are bright, but they're not saints. They want rewards too. Right now, when they publish, they get rewarded when they get traditional publications. If they prepare data to make them available for third parties, they're not rewarded. We have to change that. The idea of the Commission to start a pilot on data is something that's greatly supported by the research community. We really need that. And we do need conditions that make it safe for the research community or the research organizations to invest into the infrastructure which is needed. So we have to understand that this pilot has to be a first step. And we can change aspects as we think they need to be changed. But we have to have a clear vision. And the vision is to have this super machine that combines data and publications and makes them interoperable. And this will enable to accelerate science. It will make new, it will enable new views which we do not have right now. And this morning we were also talking about the, when Alma talked about access of corporations to publications. And I have a very concrete example. A company in Germany, Merck, they need access, a pharmaceutical company, they need access to publications. They don't subscribe to all these individual publications. They had individual document delivery. That means there's a lot they will never see. If we had open access, they had a much broader access. And that is true for all kinds of companies. Their funds are limited. So even if they subscribe, it's only a very limited view. Via open access and via the search engine, all the help we can get, we will have a much broader view. And this will enable new advancements.